Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's WCET webcast. My name is Kim Naraki. I'm the Assistant Director for Events and Programs here at WCET, and I'm joining today from beautiful Boulder, Colorado. If you would like to, please take a moment and introduce yourselves in the chat while I go through some brief housekeeping items, and we'll get started shortly. We are recording this webcast, and we will share that link with you in the next few days. At the bottom of your screen, you can see buttons for the Q&A and the chat. If you have questions for the speakers as we go through the webinar today, please use the Q&A section for those. We try to reserve the chat for sharing resources and conversational items, and sometimes questions get lost if we use the chat for those. And we will put a link to the slides in the chat so you can download those if you like. WCET is committed to providing materials that are as accessible as possible. If you prefer to download the slides on your phone to follow along, please use this QR code to do so. And you can always feel free to reach out to me directly if we can improve the accessibility of our materials in any way. So today's webcast is using modern students' voices to inform your online ecosystem. And we're so grateful to Risepoint for their partnership on today's webcast. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Melody Buckner. She is the Associate Vice Provost for Digital Learning Initiatives and Online at the University of Arizona, and she's also part of our steering committee. Welcome, Melody.
Thanks, Kim. Well, welcome, everybody. I am really excited about this session today. You are getting a little sneak peek at a report that comes out from Risepoint. They've been doing this for 14 years, and the report is called The Voice of the Online Learner, and it is going to be released July 1st. But you are getting a little sneak peek along with some of our experts that are going to talk to you about some of the highlights of this report. So without further ado, I'm going to get us started. Tim, I'm going to start you off. If you could do an introduction, and then throw it on over to Takoya.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. As I reviewed the names in the chat, I'm learning quite a bit that we are all around the nation today with Knoxville at 105 degrees and my colleague Takoya from Oklahoma City, who's getting set to have an NBA championship parade. So I'm thankful that she's here with us today. I'm Tim Wall. I serve as the Dean of the School of Education, Health and Human Services at Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville, Missouri. For those of you unfamiliar with it, that's the flyover between California and New York. We're right there in the middle, in the hot part of the United States. We have an amazing teacher ed program that we've worked on for over 100 years, and we've had some great success regionally. And today we'll get to talk a little bit more about how we're hearing the voice of the online learner in ways that is really profound. So I'm glad to be here with you today.
Thank you so much again. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here with you all again. I'm Dr. Takoya Boykins, Director of Academic Program Strategy at Risepoint, and proud to have been a part of this mission-driven work for the past 8 years. I have over 20 years of experience in higher education, including my time as both business and education faculty, and I currently serve on the AACSB Business Member Advisory Board. And yes, if you notice, the Thunder Blue that I'm wearing today, it's not just for style, it's repping our NBA champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder. But in addition to being a sports fan, I am also a lifelong education advocate. I'm passionate about making sure that what we build in higher ed actually works for today's learners. And over the last years, I've had the privilege of speaking at conferences and connecting with faculty and administrators like you across the country. And one thing is clear. We all feel the shift. Education is evolving and students are evolving. And we're here because we want to lead that change and not just chase it. So if we can go to the next slide, today's conversation is really more than just charts and stats. It's about what we do next. And I'm excited to really walk you all through what learners are telling us and how we as institutional leaders and change makers can really meet them with intention. I'm just really going to jump straight into introducing Risepoint a bit more. On the next slide here, you will see that we're an ed tech company that partners with universities to expand access to education through high quality online learning. While our name has changed, our mission remains the same, helping institutions grow by delivering affordable workforce relevant programs with strong returns for students. And the name Risepoint, it really reflects our shared goals with partners to help both institutions and students to reach those new heights. And RisePoint is really the result of bringing together two of the best trusted names in online education, academic partnerships, and Wiley University services. For those familiar with academic partnerships, you'll know that we've spent nearly 2 decades helping universities expand access to affordable, workforce-focused degrees that deliver strong ROI for students. And by joining forces with Wiley, we've now combined that deep expertise, expanded our capabilities, and really strengthened our commitment to supporting institutions through scalable, student-centered solutions. As we really think about the impact that we're making, I think the scale of our work just really tells the story. Since our inception, we've supported over 750,000 students, partnered with more than 22,000 instructors, and helped launch over 25,000 courses. Today, we're actively working with over 100 university partners and supporting more than 100,000 students. Our team engages with over 1 million prospective students, helping them to navigate their journey into higher education. We also collaborate closely with more than 1,400 faculty members across 2,000 programs. But none of this obviously will be possible without our incredible teams, over 1,500 employees strong, spread across over 40 U.S. states and 5 countries. This reach really reflects to the commitment to the scale with purpose and the partner that we are with institutions in a way that really drives measurable student and institutional success. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tim, who's going to introduce Northwest Missouri State before we jump into today's topic.
Thank you so much. I love this image of our traditional 1905 era building, founded as a teachers' college in 1905 in a normal school tucked away in the northwest part of Missouri. We are very close to Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas. In fact, many of our graduates, we try to keep them in Missouri, but we're a net exporter, and our teacher ed program is it's pretty well received. Twice. We've been able to receive the Krista McAuliffe Award for Excellence in Teacher Education related to our innovation, both in 2006 and 2018. And I feel that this is the place I would send my kids to go to school if they wanted to pursue education. Online was not something that our teacher ed program really delved into too heavily. If you take a look at the next slide, you'll see geographically where we are. We are kind of in the middle of the Midwest, not too close to a population center. We're about an hour and a half south of Omaha and Council Bluffs, an hour and a half north of Kansas City, and 45 minutes north of St. Joseph, Missouri, which is the closest population center with at least 70,000 people. So we're pretty isolated. When I came to the university in 1999 as a graduate student, I planned to be here to study for a year and then go back to St. Louis to become a teacher. And I was taking classes 6:30 to 9:30 in one of our older buildings for the traditional get your master's degree and maybe study to be a principal. That program worked really well for me. But now as a father of 15, 13, and 8-year-olds, I want to be at the events that matter so much in their lives. And part of the work that we need to do in higher education is to listen to the needs of the learners. So many of our students are seeking connectivity with actual faculty, with great feedback, content knowledge, but also flexibility. And that's really the journey that goes back to 2016, when Northwest started to partner with then academic partnerships and try to change those courses and programs to better meet the needs of students. And that's what we'll share in just a little bit. Let's go on to the next one. We're a relatively small institution. We are one of the only institutions in Missouri that's been growing in the last several years, and a lot of that has to do with online learning gains. We're known for ed prep, agriculture, business, and our athletic success. 6 times a Division II national football champion, and 4 times with national championship in basketball. That's really not enough to have students notice and care about us. The things that I think define Northwest Missouri State are the fact that we have incredible faculty who provide really good feedback to help students immediately apply what they learn in their lives, whether that's in a special ed classroom or educational diagnostician, a new program that we've added on, educational leadership, curriculum and instruction, or any of the methods classes, mathematics, science, social studies, etc. We put a lot of effort into high quality education and instruction, and the modality may be online, but that doesn't mean that we don't care and connect and find ways to challenge students. So our next slide, let's go to that one, please.
Yes.
Our next slide, I'm going to tap it back over to our friend, Dr. Takoya.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. That was a perfect segue with what you were sharing about all the great work that you're doing at Northwest Missouri, allowing us to shift into the heart of today's discussion, the voice of the online learner. I do want to say again that you all are the first to hear this information that we're sharing with you today. It will officially go live to the public on July 1st, and it'll be shared with you all as well on Wednesday. So we'll get a little early. But as institutions continue to evolve their online strategies, one of the most powerful and underutilized tools is the student voice. And this year's Voice of the Online Learner Report provides a window into what modern students are thinking, what they're feeling and expecting from the online experiences. So today we're actually going to use these voices, which are their needs, their preferences, and their motivations to really guide how we think about building an online ecosystem that truly serves our learners today. So the voice of, next, go back one for me. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the Voice of the Online Learner Report, it's now in its 14th year. It's a powerful look at how online students are evolving. This year's insights come from nearly 3,800 learners across the U.S. And as we all navigate this post-pandemic new normal, we're seeing some clear shifts that are influenced by economic uncertainty, rapid advances in technology, and changing learner expectations. Still, there are some things that have not changed. Students continue to prioritize affordability, flexibility, and career outcomes. But then we're also seeing new themes emerge, like a stronger need for connection, support in understanding AI's impact on their future careers, and an increased interest in lifelong learning pathways. And it's really a reminder that today's learner, that they're complex, they're very intentional, and they're deeply driven. And designing around their voice today is really more important than it ever has been. So let's look at who today's learners are. They are driven. They are resilient adults who are balancing a lot. They have careers and families and a desire to keep growing. In fact, we have 87% of them who actually work while pursuing their degree, with the majority of them working full time. Over half of them are parents with children under the age of 18, and more than half of them are either working parents or parents actively seeking employment. Many are also from first generation college students. So 42% of online undergrads are the first in their family to attend college. And what's especially important is that 78% are studying in a field that's directly tied to their current career. So these are not hobby learners. These are people deeply focused on mobility, on upskilling, and creating opportunity, not just for themselves, but also for their families. And this learner profile, it should really shape how we design, how we communicate, and how we support, because their needs are real, they're complex, and they are incredibly motivating. And then building on what we just shared, it's also really important to understand how learners perceive online education today. 90% of online learners believe that the quality of an online degree is equal to or better than that of a campus degree. And even more, 91% believe that employers value a degree from an accredited online institution just as much as a traditional one. So this tells us two things. One, it tells us that the long-standing stigma around online learning continues to erode. And two, students see online programs not as a compromise, but as a credible, respected path to achieving their goals. So it's not just about access, it's about legitimacy, it's about quality, and most importantly, it's about impact. As we've seen, online learners, they are really clear about what they need and what they expect. And over time, even as the world and technology continues to shift, some themes continue to show up again and again and again. So let's take a closer look at these priorities that really remain consistent year after year in the data and how they should guide our approach to online program design and support. The first few consistent themes that continue to define online learning is just first, affordability. That remains the top priority. Interestingly, this year, household savings overtook federal loans as the primary funding source. So that shift signals a growing concern around borrowing and long-term debt, especially in today's economic climate. Second, flexibility is essential. These are working adults balancing multiple demands, yet 76% are completing their programs without interruption. And that is a powerful indicator of their commitment, but it's also a reminder that flexibility isn't just a perk, that it's a necessity. And so that said, we do see higher stopout rates among undergrads and less engaged learners, which highlights an opportunity rather than a responsibility for more proactive support models. Another constant theme that we'll see on the next one that continues to rise in importance is modality, specifically learners choosing their format first. In fact, 80% of online learners said they chose modality, whether online, hybrid, or in person, before they even selected a school or a specific program. And then 71% shared that they would not choose to attend an institution if the program they wanted wasn't offered online. This tells us that for today's students, online learning, again, it isn't just an option, it's actually a deal breaker. So institutions that aren't offering high quality, fully online formats, they risk on losing out on a large and growing share of motivated learners who are making decisions that's really based on flexibility first. Two additional trends next that we see year after year are proximity and purpose. First, most online learners are staying local. About 73% live or work in the same state as their school, and half live within 100 miles. This really enforces the power of regional universities, and it's a reminder that online doesn't necessarily mean national. Local representation, it still matters. Local reputation also still matters, and even in the digital space. So second, career advancement remains the primary motivator. 94% of learners say they pursue online degrees specifically for job-related goals. And 90% of graduates say that their degree had a positive impact on their careers. That's a huge return, not just financially, but also in confidence and opportunity. The top trigger for starting a degree, it's not a recruiter or an employer, it is personal motivation. 61% said that they took the first step because they were personally ready to do so. So that means that it's on us, institutions and partners, to meet them right where they are with the right programs, the right support, and most importantly, the right outcomes. So now that we've taken a look at some of the consistent themes that continue to shape the learner experience, I want to look at what's shifting. And this next section is really going to dive into some of the emerging findings from this year's reports. And these are signals that suggest where student expectations, challenges, and opportunities are headed next. These are the insights that can help us to stay ahead of the curve and design experiences that truly evolve our learners. So while flexibility still reigns supreme, we're seeing a growing interest, and Tim even just hit on this, connection and academic support among online learners. Now, it's important to note that 66% of learners do not want to visit campus as part of their coursework. That part has not changed. But when they do come to campus, it's meaningful reasons like academic support, connection with their peers or their faculty, or major milestones like graduation. But at the same time, we're also seeing an increase in prospective students showing interest in synchronous learning more than those who are already enrolled. So this, to me, suggests that there's a gap between expectation and experience. So students are craving real-time engagement, but often find asynchronous only models once they're enrolled. And this signals an opportunity for us to think about how we can maintain the flexibility that online learners need while still designing touch points, virtual or in person, that foster connection, that build community, and that offer timely support. Again, Tim has done this incredibly well, and he'll share more on this in the coming slides. Digging deeper into this desire for connection, we asked learners why they would choose to log on for live synchronous sessions. The top reason, clarity and support. 62% of them have actually said that they feel instructors can better explain complex topics and answer questions in real time. Their live interaction isn't just a nice to have, it's an instructional value. And beyond that, nearly 40% say they want to create community and connection with their classmates. Others are looking to build professional networks, engage in group work, or just benefit from the energy and the accountability that comes from a group setting. Now, this doesn't mean that every course has to be synchronous, but it does mean that we should be thinking strategically about when and where to offer these live touch points that align with student goals and provide the kind of support that asynchronous alone can't always deliver. One of the most urgent emerging themes that we're actually seeing, of course, we are hearing about it, AI, right? And how unprepared many students feel to navigate it. 67% of learners say that understanding AI is important for workplace success, and then 69% report that their university has not yet integrated into the curriculum. That's a significant disconnect between where the workforce is headed and how academic programs are currently preparing students. There's also a duality in how students feel about AI. 50% believe that it will have a positive impact on their careers, but nearly as many, 49%, worry that it could actually hurt their potential job prospects. And then only 6% say that they've used tools like ChatGPT in their college search process so far. But as we know, the interest in that and the use of that is growing. And then all of this, it really points to a clear opportunity and again, a responsibility for institutions, not only to incorporate AI education into programs, but also to help students to build that digital literacy, to help with ethical awareness and career readiness in a rapidly evolving job market. Career advancement continues to be the dominant driver for online learners. 94% say that that's the primary reason that they're pursuing their degree. We're also seeing that 72% believe a college degree is essential for advancement in today's job market, and 75% agree that an advanced degree is increasingly necessary to stay competitive. But while the motivation remains high, we're also seeing a few subtle shifts here. So compared to last year, fewer learners reported receiving a salary increase after completing their degree. It went down from 44 to 39%. Other indicators like career impact, alignment with goals, also show small dips year over year. Now, that does not mean that learners are losing faith in the value of education. It does not mean that at all. What it actually means is that they are more aware of how competitive and how uncertain the labor market is. And they're looking to us, not just for credentials, but for career outcomes that can really help to move the needle. So it's a signal for us to stay closely aligned with workforce trends, employer expectations, and upskilling demands so that we can design programs that really do deliver ROI beyond the diploma. So as interest in continuing education grows, we're seeing more online learners exploring non-degree options. This includes professional certificates, trade certificates, and just industry certs, credentials overall. These programs, they really appeal to those learners who are looking for faster, career-focused outcomes. In fact, nearly half of online learners plan to pursue another credential in the future and overwhelmingly prefer online formats over in-person formats to actually do so. But while the demand is rising, there's still confusion and hesitation around the value of the credentials. And learners are asking, will this be recognized by employers? What's the cost? Can it lead to something bigger? Well, yes, but one of the most telling stats, only 11% of learners cited stackability toward a degree as a reason for pursuing a credential. That's incredibly low. And it highlights an opportunity for institutions to ensure that you are clarifying those pathways from certificates to degrees. So what is all of this saying? That yes, learners are indeed interested, but they need guidance and transparency, and they need reassurance that these non-degree options will lead to real recognized incomes and outcomes. And as we wrap up this portion of the presentation, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways specifically for university leadership, because everything that we've discussed, from learner motivation to modality preference to emerging needs, all has clear implications on how institutions design, how you deliver, and how you support online education. I want to take a moment to translate these into action and what it means for strategy, for innovation, and how we can better serve today's learners. Then I'm going to turn it over to Tim for a deeper dive on how we're actually putting these into practice. So I want to just pause here on this particular slide on the 5 strategic takeaways for university leadership. And these are drawn directly from what learners are telling us that they need. First, again, affordability, ROI, and flexibility. Students are cost conscious, but they also want value. That means not just lower tuition, but programs that are career relevant and designed with life in mind. Flexibility is non-negotiable, and options like variable course sequencing can make all the difference for working adults and parents. 2, employer connections. That's a real opportunity to build stronger bridges between universities and employers, from promoting tuition reimbursement to co-designing programs that directly reflect workforce needs. The clearer the path to a job or promotion, the stronger the enrollment incentive. Third, longer connection and support. While online learners often prefer asynchronous formats, many still crave community, virtual office hours, discussion groups, peer network options, especially when tailored to the student level, can actually really help to improve engagement and persistence. Fourth, generative AI. Students see it's important, but many don't feel equipped. Institutions can fill that gap with hands-on instruction, use case integration, clear messaging that alternative credentials and degrees can work together, not in competition of each other. And then finally, lifelong learners. Learners, they are not just looking for a degree, they're looking for a partner in their long-term growth. I mentioned that they all mentioned that they're going to go back and get some type of certificate soon, right, at some point in the future. So by embedding AI, upskilling opportunities, and credentialing pathways into the broader student journey, that can really help to keep alumni coming back and build institutional trust over time. And with those themes in mind, I want to take just a really close look at what this means in practice. I'll close with this on this next slide. So today's online learners, again, they are practical, they are career focused, and are increasingly modality agnostic. They're not just choosing programs, they're choosing pathways that align with their lives, with their goals, and with their futures. They continue to prioritize flexibility over and ROI, but they also want connection, they want support, and they want clarity. And while the traditional motivators, they still remain strong, we're seeing new complexity, things like AI literacy, credentialing confusion, and shifting workforce demands really start to reshape what they expect from higher education. And to stay relevant, institutions have to evolve alongside the learners. This means that blending flexibility with intentional engagement, embedding AI across the curriculum, and clearly defining lifelong learning pathways. The future of online education, it's not just about delivering content. It's about meeting our learners right where they are and getting them where they are and taking them to where they need to be. So it's about meeting learners where they are and where they're going. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Tim, who's going to walk us through how all of this comes to life in practice and all the amazing work that he has done at Northwest Missouri State.
Thank you, Sequoia. Hey, everybody. If you just tuned in, I'm Tim Wall from Northwest Missouri State University, where I serve as our Dean of the School of Education, Health, and Human Services. And in this journey, we're going to try to personalize and explain through Northwest Missouri State's growth since 2016, how our partner in Risepoint has really set us up for success. Let's start with a few brag points, if you will. You know how each of our institutions is pretty good at some things? Well, Northwest is known for having a great teacher ed program. We've had pretty strong results for years and years and years. And in fact, I think it's 99.8% of our graduates in the last 10 years have found employment and or gone to graduate study within 6 months of being hired. We just can't keep our teachers who graduate stocked on the shelves. Well, there's a national teacher shortage. So the slide that you see here comes from our institutional data analysis statewide, that our graduates are actually pretty impactful in the classroom. And this shows a couple of things. One, we have a pretty robust assessment system, which is going to be the focal point of one of the classes we've developed for our master's programs, data literacy and assessment literacy. So our candidates historically were really strong at the things that matter for beginning educators, managing the classroom, using assessment data to improve student learning, being able to differentiate those lessons, and obviously engagement. All of those things are a really good foundation, but they're kind of unimportant when we're talking about the online learning changes that we need to make, because candidates won't necessarily come to Northwest Missouri State University except for the undergrad experience. So because of our location, we in 2015 and 2016, we started studying how to find some extra help with marketing, extra help with making our excellence available in our state and nationally. And on our next slide, you see another aspect of the institution. We have an on-site laboratory school, three, in fact. We have a laboratory school for children who are 1 to 3 years old, the Infant and Toddler Center. We have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in the mixed age classrooms for Early Childhood Center, and then a working K through 6 elementary school. So our undergraduate reputation is pretty robust. Students get into the classroom and start teaching by week 8. And we want that level of quality for our graduate programs. So how do you do that? And what's the journey look like? Well, when we started working with then Academic Partnerships in 2016, they invited us to take a look at their work in Texas and understand a little bit more about how marketing and support and heat maps and all of the business aspects, how they could use internet search engine optimization to find people who might want our brand. Hey, Northwest, that's the good teacher ed program. So if they're doing an internet search and they happen to be looking up, for example, one of those football statistics that or scores that we mentioned earlier, then they might get a tailored ad for one of the Northwest suite of programs that we had. And we received advice early on to go ahead and develop the most in-demand program. So we started in 2016 with our educational leadership program moving online. And during that time, we did a pretty massive overhaul. One of our leaders on campus, Dr. David Keeney, worked with the state of Missouri and some national leaders to develop the first online program that would meet the NELP standards, the National Ed Leadership standards. And with that, we thought we might have 15 or 20 students in that first cohort in 2016. And we ended up having 50, which was quite a big change. And that certainly wouldn't have happened if we just had the 6:30 to 9:30 come to Maryville, Missouri, and give up and sacrifice all the other things you care about just to come to graduate school. So as a dad, for me, that's basketball. Tonight at 6 o'clock, my 8-year-old has a basketball game. I have some chess tournaments from a middle child who's a big Oklahoma City Thunder fan, Takoya, and she's excited about that. My eldest is in musical theater right now, and I have stuff I need to do, plus church, family, and then the ever elusive date night with my partner, right? Those are the things that we started to think about from a perspective of what students would want to have. So how do we balance the need for amazing faculty who want to only do high quality things? They don't want to cut corners. They don't want to offer less than. How do we have an excellent online program? And that was the gist of the conversation in 2016. How do we have excellence with convenience and also grow? That's an important piece of our reality as well. Let's go on to the next image. So our goals were pretty well aligned with Academic Partnerships and Risepoint's goals. They wanted to partner with us to allow our faculty to shine, to have online programs that would be robust, high quality, but flexible. One of the first initial conversations was, how do we make it so that our classes are not in the same order that our graduate programs since 1968 had been? You take this, then you take this, then you take this. The modern learner wants to be able to enroll and start within a few days. They want to receive an admittance to your teacher ed program or business program, MBA, whatever the degree is. The graduate student really wants to know that they're going to start soon. So one challenge was moving from a fall, spring, occasionally summer semester with 3 trimesters with our schedule to have 6 sessions per year, 7 weeks each. And then how do we make it so those 10 or 12 classes in the master's degree build independently without having to take one sequentially so that people could just catch up as they are? That required a massive curricular change. And our faculty were amazing, great leaders, great people. And we saw it as an opportunity to see that the shelf life of curriculum is more than 5 years and sometimes probably needs to be reinvented. So we did all of that work while simultaneously having academic partnerships and Risepoint come in to offer best practices in instructional design. For example, if you take a data literacy class with me, I still get to teach in our programs. That structure and design should look pretty similar to Dr. Ingraham's section so that the student, the online learner, doesn't have to learn 10 different professors' ways of designing the classes. I think that's a piece that, when brought to us, made a lot of sense. And through our partnerships, we also worked on everything about assessment, backwards design, trying to create great outcomes that would tie in with our own national accreditation. We've been nationally accredited since the inception of it in 1954, and currently working with AQUEP for national accreditation. We want to do things at the highest level possible. We want to make our regional accreditor, which is the Higher Learning Commission, see that we're using the data to help promote students' growth and learning. How do we find all that together? Well, we were able to get connected in 2016 with some institutions that were also in rural communities to steal their ideas and learn how essentially they'd made that transition to have some online programs. We started out pretty small. We had one program. The next year, we developed a curriculum instruction. Again, that was based on market research saying that that was a pretty good growth opportunity. And now we have, I think, 12 master's degrees and several specialist programs that have led to stackable credentials. People love the experience of coming to Northwest, and they love our online programs, and they want to come back and pursue a specialist degree at a higher level. And we're entertaining moving on, trying to develop a doctoral program. If that's something that we can do in our state. There's some certain policies that are tricky in Missouri. At any rate, this challenge was made a little bit easier because our Risepoint partners, then academic partnerships, came to campus and learned what our faculty are all about. They connected us with online learning experts who could help us with instructional design and had this research that you just saw Dr. Boykins share that's pretty compelling. And that provided the emphasis that allowed us to make the change. It wasn't a lack of interest. It's just, I think about it like this. If my wife, Jenny, sends me to Home Depot or Lowe's, she sends me to the home improvement store, not the home change store. People hate change. And when you're talking about moving the faculty in a direction, I've found that I wanted to be a part of it too, designing classes, working on this new modality, trying to find a way that would be better for students. And it's been pretty aligned with our goals. As you see on the screen, in 2016, this was the vision that I laid out in my first year as the Dean of the School of Education. We needed to do our organizational viability hinged on offering effective, relevant, renovated, affordable, agile graduate education coursework. And I wrote this before I even knew about academic partnerships, before I knew that that was a group that Risepoint excels in these areas, that we would either teach extraordinarily well face-to-face, or we would go online asynchronous, and we'd move away from some of the state requirements with excellent marketing and recruiting support. And that, the excellent marketing and recruiting, was definitely a gap at Northwest Missouri State University. We just didn't have the funds for that. And I would probably say that we didn't have the expertise either. And so partnering up with Risepoint has been very, very helpful because they knew and got to know us, got to know the kinds of places that they should be investing in marketing. And we threw a little bit of a net around Missouri in 2016, 17, and 18. Now, if I fast forward a little bit, when 2020, the COVID time happened, I was so thankful that our faculty had moved their courses and our programs online, because many of my institutional partners were at a loss for how to make that transition. I was thankful that we'd invested early and been one of the first to market as well. I think that's going to be an important piece of our story. Let's go on to the next image if we could. What do we do that is similar for our online programs and our undergrad programs? We still teach. We don't just record the lectures and then have the students have access to them. I try in the data literacy class, I try to invite all the students for 3 sessions. And if they can't make it, I record it and it's asynchronous, but everybody wants to know that a real teacher still cares about them. And I think that's been something that's been vital. Everyone who is part of our students want to know that they can get their questions answered. If they don't understand t-test, ANOVA, and chi-square, they want to find somebody who can help explain it in regular language. And so within our 12 master's degree programs, we have a coordinator for each of those degrees, and they have oversight over hiring our excellent faculty. And it is largely an adjunct model, but all of us still teach within those programs so that we can provide that arm around the shoulder, foot in the backside that we would give to our undergrad students. So students want high quality with high support. And I'll say that one again, they want high quality with high support. And they want it to be easy to access, not necessarily easy in terms of content. But when we listen to the voice of the modern learner, they want the option to come to a synchronous Zoom session for half an hour, once or twice or 3 times per 7 weeks. And if they have to go do something, take someone to the dentist, they want it recorded so they can watch it, and they want to catch up, and they want prompt responses through email, which is very difficult. And we all understand that. But that is something that shows us that we're listening to the needs of our students. I wish that I could give everyone the beautiful on-campus experience in Maryville, but so many learners just aren't coming to campus. So the students that we get to know build a culture and a community that's been vital. And we design our classes so that we can foment the development of culture and support. And then when you have 10 of those experiences, finish your degree, you're going to want to come back and get a specialist degree. That's been an experience that we've had. We've had lots and lots of students come back and say, I'd like to continue my learning. What was it that Sequoia said earlier? It's not just a course, it's a path, it's a direction that we're aiming in our lives. And it's been meaningful. Let's go on to the next image. Total student credit hours in the summers. We started this journey in 2016 when we had 2,000 student credit hours in the summer of 2016. And as of last summer, it was 12,471. And I'm not embarrassed by the fact that our institution is growing. There is a lot of pressure in higher education right now. So we should have an emphasis on excess revenue over expenses. Otherwise, we might, go out of business. And I certainly wouldn't want that. Plus, I really believe, and my faculty really believe in the programs that we have. We know that our special ed students are better off having had our program. The curriculum instruction leaders have better ideas on how to be a department chairperson and someone who can really help with technology. Our educational leaders will balance out equity, data analysis, and the kinds of work that matters. Here and in 32 states now, we have students across 32 different states, mostly in Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas, but people in California find meaning in our programs, which really surprised me. I did not expect to have students all around the country, and some who are in China working in English-speaking schools who come back to us for school. We're available. And that also is an important piece when you think about multiple time zones. I saw someone was on today from Hawaii. When we have multiple time zones to consider, I think having different times when we have our offerings for synchronous conversations with students are just a sign of respect and appreciation. It's those little differences that seem to make a difference. Our next image shows, let's go to that next one, our graduate student enrollment. In 2016, we had 365 students and then down to 295, and now we're up to 2383. And 2025, the number is 2,700. So that is 9 times where we started. And I don't think it's a coincidence that our journey with academic partnerships, Risepoint, it's not unrelated. They have the business sense, the connections, the design mentality to let us do what we are innately good at and transform it into a different modality. I mean, one of the pieces from the research Takoya mentioned is that right now people are modality agnostic. They just need the experience, and whatever way works best for them is going to be the way that they choose. So with that, we've also developed master's degrees in business administration and healthcare. We have a burgeoning nursing program and a large volume of great programs where academic partnerships and Risepoint have come over to Maryville to learn what we're trying to do to help us help ourselves achieve some goals that we have so that we can stay vibrant and offer a new modality that honors the students' needs. I think I have one more slide. Yes, our enrollment is up. There's the main idea. I think you guys have picked up on all of that, but it took a lot of work. It took great partnership, and it was such a good decision that 3 years ago when we were in the post-COVID era with economic difficulties, we're a tiny rural teacher ed program at a university that is really far away from the center of our state. You know, we're not close to Jefferson City where the political connections are. We're not a flagship like the University of Missouri, Columbia. So we were looking at large cuts, and we did not have to fire anyone. And I think a connection is that we've had great growth with really good programs that we believe in that have been some sort of a saving grace. Our bacon has been saved, and I don't know what the vegetarian alternative would be, but I'm a bacon guy. That's our story. If I were to offer some advice, I think it's important to find out if faculty are ready for the change. It's a lot of work. There are good incentives to put in place to help people develop new programs and new courses. And of course, I always think modeling it and teaching it with the group as a leader is important too. But in terms of a partner, you wouldn't be able to find a better partner with the know-how and the care for our success than you would in Risepoint. So that's why Takoya and I are besties.
So this has been a great presentation. I don't know if you wanted to go to the last slide that has the thank you and your contact. We have about 10 minutes for questions. So if you could put some questions in the chat, I will facilitate those. Right now we have a couple, or we have one in there, and then I have a couple while you're thinking to get your juices flowing for those questions. So please put those in the Q&A. Here's one question. What do you do if the faculty isn't really ready for change or improvement? And that was one of the questions I was going to have about faculty buy-in. There can be a number of considerations, when you're wanting to go from face-to-face or hybrid to fully online. And Tim, I don't know if you can speak to that, but what are some of the things that you have encountered? And then how do you, get past those and actually get on to the improvement, not so much the change?
That's a wonderful question. So at Northwest in 2010, say, we would have fall and spring, and then occasionally some faculty would teach in the summer, but by and large, they would go do research or travel. And one of the challenges with moving to 6-7 week blocks, one of the benefits, first off, is that a person is never more than 43 days away from starting a new program with us, no matter what time of year they apply. But the faculty buy-in is a key component. So we offered incentives, financial incentives to develop the classes. We offered faculty the first opportunity to teach these classes, and there is good financial benefit for an education professor who heretofore wouldn't have taught in the summer. It's pretty sizable income opportunity as well. So one of the challenges we've had, though, is that there's a little bit of increased expectation, and I don't want people to feel they have to teach in the summer. So we have really worked hard to expand our pool of high quality adjuncts. And that's been something that's been helpful. I think I think we know the individuals that we work with that aren't ready to change. And I think nothing takes the place of leadership with conversations about direction, aligning goals, and making sure that we do what's best for the institution and our students, not the individual. I know that sounds like a selfish jerk answer, but it's pretty real.
Yeah, I often say, here's what I think faculty want, but I think all humans want this. They want some money, they want some time, and they want some recognition. And so I think those are some things to think about too. But that's a great answer. Thank you, Tim. Takoya, I've got one for you. Someone is really excited about the data that you're sharing. And they say adult learners often judge multiple responses outside of school. A challenge we've also identified as a key driver of withdrawals from the institution. Can you share more about the types of targeted support institutions might offer to better retain their populations? Additionally, are there any promising areas for research that could help us explore effective solutions all around retention? See what you have to say on that one.
Yeah, that's great question. I think retention is really critical. So as we're talking about retaining adult learners, a few things, again, the flexible course delivery options, right? Asynchronous, hybrid formats, accelerated terms, modular programs and courses is something that is strongly recommended to consider. Academic and career coaching, credit for prior learning, competency-based education, those are all really critical. Support services outside of traditional hours, that might be where some of those synchronous sessions come in that we talked about. Financial flexibility, if there's options there, just kind of depending, peer support. Really, what it really boils down to, the students want to feel connected, right? So if we can be really intentional about the opportunities that we present for connection, then that's how we're able to retain them, right? So if we're intentional about how they connect with their peers, if we're intentional about how they connect with faculty, if we're intentional about how they connect with the community of the institution, I think that's really critical there along the way. As far as the research, you have the voice of the online learner that's coming to you on July 1st. And so that's a really great opportunity there. And that's an awesome opportunity I want to share too, for those of you who are just joining in, who joined in a bit later. I do want to say that 2025 Voice of the Online Learner, that research that I shared today, this sneak peek, the full report will be available to share with you on July 1st when it's officially released. I said on Wednesday is July 2nd. It's July 1st is when it'll officially be released to the public. So I wanted to clear that up for you all as well.
So I
But
think,
yeah,
oh,
retention
go
is
ahead.
key. No, please go ahead.
I think we've got time for one more question, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Kim to wrap it up. This one I really want to go at because it's about engagement. And I think for online students, it's really important to have engagement, and sometimes it's something we struggle with. It says we've heard from our online learners that they crave more connection and interaction. However, engagement remains a challenge. How do you foster meaningful engagement with your student population? Have you seen a trend in the most common times that they are available to connect with their peers, and I would say even with their instructor?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump in with a couple of ideas about that. I still teach our data literacy and assessment literacy class. In fact, one just started today. One of the things that we do is have the students get a jigsaw approach, and we use some Kagan structure and strategy. So if their goal is to read a journal article about assessment and apply it to their current classroom status, I have the students read in a group of 5 one article and then summarize it for the other and get into discussions. And I know that that can be overused, but it's pretty helpful. We have meaningful discussions that we'll have where the students post first. So instead of just reading what everybody writes and then copying it, they have to post their own first and then lead to a discussion. And we try to, in the first week or two of the online session, to make sure that students are engaging in ways that are reasonable and helpful for each other. As students advance in their program towards the specialist degree, I find that it's not hard at all to engage students with a continuous improvement project because they have such passion for data analysis and student learning in their own scope, in their own districts. Those are pretty fertile grounds for conversations. And then going to the question of when students are available, if you have a large class of students or several sections together, 75 students, 100 students, you're not going to find a time that works. So what I try to do is use the time zone in which most of the students are, and then I schedule it a half an hour session at 4 to 5 o'clock, which is a little bit before games start for coaches, a little bit after school gets out. So most could make that half an hour session. And then I record it and make sure that students are aware that it's available. And then in the feedback that I give to students, I often say, hey, we explored this a little bit further. Here's a link to the video. Take a look at this. And then I have a repository of 30-minute videos on all the different aspects of the content to go direct students back to what worked well. So that can be pretty engaging. And then I deputize the students. Now that you've heard from me, I will say, go out and use the discussion boards to make sure people are aware of what we're trying to accomplish, because you have a good understanding of that. And they do it. They help each other by building that community and connection. I just think it comes back to high expectations.
I think that's a great answer and a great way to wrap up. Dekoya, do you want to talk just really quickly about where to get the report and how they can get access to this data?
Yeah, absolutely. So it will be available on risepoint.com on our website. You'll be able to access it there. If you all have any questions, you all can feel free to reach out to us directly as well, and we'll guide you accordingly. So it'll be available for you there. We're super excited to share all the great insights from that report. This was just a snippet of what you will actually find there. So we really, really encourage you to check that out on July 1st. Thank you all again. This has been absolutely amazing. We're still kind of going through answering some of the questions, typing them out as well. So, but again, thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you both. This has been a really enlightening session. I've learned quite a bit. And now I have two new friends that I can tap on when I have questions.
That's right.
So thank you. And Kim, I'm going to hand it over to you for some housekeeping and wrapping it up for us.
Great. Thanks so much, Melody, Tim, and Dekoya for the insightful conversation today. I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience did as well. If you have additional questions, you can reach out to the panelists by email. And as Dekoya mentioned, the report will be available on July 1st. So we're going to wait and send our recording link and general wrap-up email until that date so you can all get a link to the report. If this was your first WCET webcast, we hope that you'll stay in touch with us. You can learn more about our organization and our upcoming events at wcet.wichita.edu. And we hope you can join us in Denver for our annual conference. It'll be October 21st through the 23rd. Our friends at the State Authorization Network, if you're a member of that group, do host their annual coordinator meeting on October 20th. And we'll close out the week with our annual summit for women in e-learning. You can find out more about the event at bit.ly/WCET-2025. Thank you again to Risepoint for partnering with us on this webcast. And I also want to take a quick moment to thank our annual sponsors and our supporting members who make our work at WCET possible. And thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all have a wonderful day.